Good afternoon, good evening, everyone, depending on where you are in the world. You're all really welcome to this event this evening. This is an official side event of the 2025 UN ECOSOC Partnership Forum. The event is organised by University College Dublin, who is an SDG Government of Ireland champion, in partnership with SDSN and in particular the SDG Academy. My name is Enda Murphy. I'm a professor at University College Dublin, and UCD has for a long number of years held a significant, I suppose, educational partnership with SDSN. Particularly, we have a master's program in sustainable development, but we've held many different partnerships and many different initiatives together. So we're delighted to co-organize this particular event this evening. We have quite a packed schedule today. We have 6 speakers, 6 really high level and esteemed speakers. So we're very fortunate to have those people here, and we thank them all for joining us today. This side event will really focus on public-private partnerships that are needed or required to curate, I suppose, and utilize SDG knowledge as a public good for wider society. And that's what we're going to focus on today. So because we have a fairly packed schedule, we're going to go straight into the lineup of speakers. Each speaker will speak for about 7 minutes. We won't take questions after each speaker. We will leave questions until the end, and feel free then at the end of the session and after all the speakers have completed their 7 minutes to engage in conversation and ask questions where you see fit. So without further ado, I would like to introduce today's first speaker. It's Zeynep Evroglu. She's a program specialist at UNESCO, and she's going to be speaking on the Dubai Declaration on Open Educational Resources, or OER. Zeynep, over to you.
Thank you very much, Enda, and it's a great pleasure to be here. So thank you very much for having me, and thank you. It's a great honor to be with you. I'm going to speak to you about the Dubai Declaration on Open Educational Resources, which was adopted in 2024, which was only a couple of months ago in November at the 3rd UNESCO World OER Congress, and how it relates to AI and emerging technologies for equitable access to learning, and from there, it's linked to partnerships for sustainable development. So just to give you a framework, what we're talking about here, UNESCO member states adopted the 2019 UNESCO recommendation on open educational resources in 2019 at the General Conference of UNESCO. 194 member states agreed on this only normative instrument in the area of openly licensed learning content in the whole UN system. It's also the only instrument of UNESCO that deals with openly licensed content, technologies, and education. The instrument itself has 5 areas, which you see on the screen, and it's basically areas of action that member states should address when supporting the use of openly licensed educational content. And there are recommendations under each one for capacity building, policy support, inclusive use of OER, sustainability, and international cooperation. Now, down here on the screen is a very important thing. If there's nothing else you hear during this presentation, please hear this. Open educational resources is defined very clearly in this document as any learning, teaching, and research materials in any format and medium, that means either printed or online or elsewhere, that resides in the public domain or under a copyright, that's been released under an open license that permits no cost access, reuse, repurposing, adaptation, and redistribution by others. This is not talking about free materials on a website, which are under full copyright. Openly licensed materials are those that permit the no cost access, reuse, repurposing. Normally, it's a Creative Commons open license. Now, in November 2024, UNESCO organized, in partnership with UN SDSN and the Mohammed bin Rashid Knowledge Foundation in Dubai, a 3rd UNESCO World OER Congress on digital public goods, emerging technologies, and AI for access to knowledge. equitable access to knowledge. And out of this document, out of this meeting was adopted a guidance to support the recommendation. So it's not a separate document, but it's a document to support the implementation of this recommendation in view of the emerging technologies and AI issues that have come up since 2019. As you're aware, it's been 6 years. There's a lot of new developments in this area, and it was felt that there was a need to really address this head on. So this is what I'm going to speak to you about today. Inside this declaration, we looked at the key issues that have to be faced in terms of the areas outlined in the recommendation. So in terms of capacity building, there was a focus on professional development, of course, to have teachers not only know about OER and how to actually produce, find, reuse OER, but also about how to use AI for OER, about inclusive digital literacy for stakeholders to make sure that when they're developing these materials, for example, translation of materials or other, that it's done in an inclusive manner. About OER attribution, we're talking about the licensing and the ways to discover the OER using emerging technologies, issues of digitally signed works, and human rights-based strategies for the use of OER use of AI and emerging technologies in OER. For policy, there was a big push about respect for licenses on AI platforms. There was also an issue about the recognition of open licenses when large language models are being used, and machine readable licenses for AI outputs. Some of these things don't exist, but there is a need to work towards this. Research on attribution systems, and this is looking at ledgers and other ways of ensuring the traceability of resources. In terms of equitable access to quality OER, there were issues about using AI-enabled OER for accessibility, which is an area that could be very promising. Machine readable licenses for OER, translation and contextualization, and issues about using the technologies in this regard, and the promotion of open ecosystems, so open platforms, and different open software for the repositories of OER also. In sustainability, we're talking about interoperability and IPR protections, about green growth of this work, environmental sustainability, participatory governance and transparency, and open ecosystems for OER again. Now, partnerships was really highlighted. As you can see, even on the slide, it kind of holds up everything, because it's by working together as a global community that we'll be able to ensure that this work goes in this direction. And it's about the regional and international frameworks, engagement with open communities, and with legal experts. It's very important that there is a dialogue, interregional cooperation on AI frameworks, authorship recognition, and AI platforms for OER creation in a human rights-based framework. Now, how can this strengthen teaching and learning for SDGs and for all different areas? There is a potential for personalized learning, for teacher empowerment, for policy alignment, but it's really about harnessing this in the right way. And I would encourage you to read the document. It's in a 7-minute presentation. I can't get into the nitty-gritty, but I would encourage you to really go into the document. Now, we have talked about the ROMEX principles in the document, and the document, ROMEX principles is something that UNESCO has been working with. It stands for rights-based, human rights-based, open, accessible, multi-stakeholder decision-making, and with cross-cutting issues such as gender being taken into account.
1 minute.
These are the principles that are being pushed forward in this document. The way forward would be integration of the Dubai Declaration in governments implementing the recommendation to expand equitable access to learning, really underscoring again these ROMEX principles, and a call for collaboration to leverage partnerships here to advance innovative, sustainable educational practices, and a call for action to harness AI and OER to bridge educational gaps and foster global knowledge and sharing. And with that, I leave you. I will put these into the chat. We have an OER Dynamic Coalition, which is a group of all stakeholders working in the area of OER. We share updates, we encourage collaboration and sharing of information on different activities globally on OER. So we would encourage you to join us and be part of the discussion. The link to the recommendation itself, the link to, we have a portal for the OER Dynamic Coalition, the link to that, and a link to the Dubai Declaration on OER. So I'll put these into the chat after my presentation. And it is a great honor to be here today with you and to have the opportunity to present. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Zainab, and that's really good, fascinating insight into the Dubai Declaration. I think as someone who works in education, it's really important. The principles enshrined in the Dubai Declaration and in OER more generally are really crucial, I suppose, for the future of education. So thank you for giving us those insights. If you could stop sharing your screen now, we will move on to the next presenter today. So the next presenter is Elena Proden. Elena is a senior specialist in UNITAR, and she's going to be speaking on capabilities for the future hub of multilateral industrial policy. Elena, you have 7 minutes. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Enda, and it's my great pleasure to be joining this wonderful panel today and sharing an example of a partnership initiative that was initially developed by UNIDO, SDSN, and UNITAR, but we hope to have many more partners involved in it, and it's called Capabilities for the Future Hub. I will start with by sharing a 3-minute video with you, and then I will share a few reflections to complement it.
The world is undergoing significant transformations. Global value chains are being reshaped, driven by renewable energy, digital and demographic transitions, global rebalancing, and new regulations in different countries or regions. Real economy needs to restructure. Financing solutions need to incentivize these shifts. Market forces cannot do this alone. Policies and regulations have to support these transformations, give a sense of direction, and create incentives for private sector innovations. However, if each country starts doing it on its own, regulatory and policy misalignment will stifle progress. As economies transition, there will be trade-offs and costs in the short run. Countries will tend to compete for offering easy solutions and shifting negative effects outside of their jurisdictions. Another race to the bottom and negative consequences for countries with less capacities must be avoided. To this end, UNIDO called for new era industrial policies to achieve the SDGs. A major gap in capacities must be addressed. For policymakers, to design and coordinate industrial policies for greener and more inclusive transitions. For business, to develop new business strategies and models. For vocational education, to provide relevant learning for sustainable jobs. For academia, to offer quicker, flexible and action-oriented learning pathways. There is expertise spread across multiple networks, actors and countries. We must connect the dots across different partners and regions. Some relevant learning is already available, but the offer is fragmented. We need a more strategic approach to capacity building. Capabilities for the Future Hub will help connect the dots, partners and countries within and across regions. The aim is to enable all to pool their expertise and fast-track progress, in particular for those with less resources. We should start with policymakers to ensure SDG-aligned industrial and regulatory policy. The efforts across the private sector and education should align. Foundational learning should be built out with industry-specific offers with variations for regions. This could only emerge out of collaborations. The Hub will contribute to cohesive national industrial policies, learning strategies, and multilateral coordination. For the Hub to go live, we need UN member states' mandates and voluntary contributions, and more business and education players with knowledge, learning resources and funding for this global public good. Join us.
I will just say a few words following this video that we have developed also with the support and substantive inputs from DLA Piper. I think one of the things that we really trying to address through this initiative, it's capacity building, really the needs related to capacity building, and how can we best harness partnerships to respond to these needs. As we have heard in this video, and as was noted by a landmark UNIDO report last year, there is an interest in the revival of industrial policies. And many leading development economists have been pointing to the need not only to revive, but actually need for a new type of industrial policies. And what's really important is that these policies cannot be designed in silos by countries separately. It's really important to ensure that there is a multilateral coordination when it comes to industrial policies. In fact, this video, demo video, has been developed and presented during the UNIDO Multilateral Industrial Policy Forum in Saudi Arabia, organized last year in October 2024. And we presented it jointly with a few UN member states and private sector partners who have their vision of a need, really a gap, and the need when it comes to capacity building in this area, but also coordination and partnerships. I think one of the things that, of course, we are hoping to address, it's the building of capacities, regulators, industrial policymakers, because often even nationally policies are being developed without necessarily thinking about unexpected effects across other sectors of national policies. Not to mention that also the spillover effects across borders are not taken into account. So building the capacities of policymakers to develop more coherent policies and better collaborate in regulations also with other countries is important, but also capacities within the private sector and different types of industries, in particular, making learning available to SMEs who have less resources, and also the future employees when it comes to the collaborations between vocational education and training institutions.
1 minute.
And we see that the industry needs are actually, so the needs are quite industry specific. They can also be region specific. And ultimately what we are trying to do is to use as the entry point global value chains and create space for national authorities, private sector, VAT institutions, academia, from the countries who are involved in the same global value chain to have this knowledge generation and sharing process together. We also hope that through this capacity building hub, capabilities for the future hub will be able to promote knowledge sharing and build the capacities, for example, vocational education and training institutions with a curriculum developed in one country. It can, in principle, be useful in other countries. And of course, open educational resource license would be very welcome here because the material often needs to be adapted. Private sector can also bring the expertise and insights from potential effects of certain regulations when learning is being developed. I think maybe just to mention, today there will be other presentations that will be focusing on specific sector and industry examples in terms of learning. And we hope to create a space at a global level where we will be able to develop models of collaborations across global value chains, but also different partners to make this learning more easily available, more tailored to the needs of the learners, and respond to make sure that the global value chains that are being reshaped, they are not becoming not only more environmental friendly, but also more inclusive, to ensure if there are certain regulations that are being introduced in one country, for example, like ESG regulation in European Union. And there are potential trickle-down effects for example, small producers and suppliers in other countries. We can help build their capacities to participate in these more environmentally friendly, greener, and more inclusive global value chains. And I will stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Elena. That was again really insightful on the project. It's fascinating, and I suppose the objective of a multilateral policy that is reoriented towards a different, I suppose, type of production in relation to a model of the global economy that's trying to achieve sort of SDG outcomes is something that's really important for the future as well. So thank you very much for that. Our next speaker, moving swiftly on, is Anthony Ireland. Anthony is the founder of the Better Insurance Network, and he's going to be speaking on insurance partnerships and the role of the SDGs. So Anthony, your 7 minutes is now. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm just going to share my screen. Hopefully you can each see that. So yes, I run Better Insurance Network. For context, we're a for-profit organization, profit with purpose. So our mission is to accelerate sustainability, implementation, and innovation in the insurance industry. And we do that through a couple of forums. So we've built a community. We host events. We do networking and mentoring. And we also have an educational arm, which is training. So we've built the industry's first e-learning program that's distilling in sustainability into insurance language. And if you look at the science policy practice interface, you would say, we're very much at the practice end. So we're at the grassroots working with insurance practitioners to try and translate this language into practical insights that help them do their job better and obviously implement sustainability in a way that remains profitable. So we're really delighted to be partnering with SDSN, the SDG Academy, and UNITAR on a course called Insurance and the SDGs. So that's what I'm here to talk about. I first want to just set the scene a little bit on why we're doing this and why insurance is important to the SDGs. I think the insurance industry has been a little preoccupied with carbon and climate risk for obvious reasons. These are very much in its wheelhouse. But if you actually look at the various ways that insurance influences the world, it directly impacts many SDGs, whether that's acting as a financial safety net, life and health insurance, supporting economic growth, innovation, climate action, clean energy. It touches every part of the economy and society. And in fact, a major insurance company, Allianz, released a report a couple of weeks ago, which presented a direct correlation between insurance penetration, so the spend, the proportion of GDP spent on insurance, and progress against the SDGs. So there's a very clear link between insurance and the SDGs. But at the moment, the quantification of SDG impact is quite limited in the insurance space. And there isn't a huge understanding of these links, really, and it's certainly not in mainstream business model thinking. So a couple of our goals as Better Insurance Network have been, firstly, to bring multiple stakeholder voices to the table, because we've done a lot of talking to the industry and with the industry over the last few years. But what we want to do is now formulate solutions. So we want to open up to different stakeholder groups, such as academia, such as the public sector. We also want to put SDGs firmly on the insurance companies' radars. And this is obviously where there's clear synergies with the work of SDSN, SDG Academy, and UNITAR. SDSN are actually working on a position paper right now, which is all about putting insurance up the agenda at the UN. Obviously, they're educating a wide audience on sustainable development and are looking to engage with specific sectors to encourage meaningful action as well. So there's a real synergy between what we're doing, and thus this partnership was born. So, yeah, there's a nice Venn diagram of our synergies. So what we've done is we've created a MOOC, a nice new word for me, a massive open online course called Insurance and the SDGs. We are combining the faculty with people from the UN ecosystem who have deep expertise in the SDGs. with leaders from the insurance market. I know that this partnership forum is focusing on goals 3, 8 and 17 specifically, has put an emphasis on them, and all 3 of those goals will be addressed through this course. What we're doing is trying to make it rich in case studies and real world examples to try and illustrate how the insurance industry is innovating and scaling solutions and is delivering impact across specific SDGs. So as well as looking at product innovations and the role of data and technology, which could be things like parametric crop insurance, or it could be wearables and preventative healthcare measures with insurance policies, health insurance policies. There's a big focus on partnerships. So we look at what makes a strong insurance-related PPP. That's a key focus for us. And we cover a lot of ground, and this is going to be an evolving course that will delve into more specific SDGs as we go. This is for people who work in insurance, people that intersect with insurance. It's also for policymakers, public sector, academia, and of course, the wider economy and civil society that may have an interest in this. And really what we're trying to do is illustrate those links between insurance and the 2030 agenda, push insurance up the agenda as a critical enabler of the SDGs, and spark ideas that are going to drive collaboration. At the end of the day, the SDGs need to be mainstreamed into insurance business models. Insurers also need to be at the table for those conversations around financing partnerships, which again ties into the SDSN's work with their position paper. So we're hoping that this course can help push things forward and support that effort to get insurance onto the conversation. So where are we now? We're actually mid-production. We're in a post-production phase, so we've shot all of the materials. We are going live on edX in March. So Better Insurance Network is hosting a global festival of sustainability-focused events for the insurance industry. And we're going to be launching this conference at our flagship summit on the 25th of March. And I know SDSN will be present at a couple of other events in that week. Next steps, we are, as I said, looking to make this an evolving course. So this is very much seen as a primer to more materials that can help establish assurance as an area we should be focusing on. Phase 2 of this course could include, for example, deep dives into more specific SDGs or deep dives into more practical implementation topics. And so hopefully this is the start of a mutually beneficial partnership between us in the private sector and the various UN teams that we've been working with, led by SDSN. And hopefully the ultimate goal will be to raise awareness and inspire action, which is obviously where our objectives align.
Perfect. Great. And I suppose, you're completely right. The role of insurance in terms of, resilient societies more generally is really, really important, and something that goes under the radar significantly. So it's good that I think you've been working with SDSN to try and raise the profile of insurance as a risk mitigation issue, I suppose, in relation to SDGs in the future. So really, really, really useful. Thank you for that. We will move quickly on to the next speaker, if that's okay. So the next speaker is Maria Nakova. Maria is project manager at the BuildSkills Academy and manager of strategic development for Clean Tech Bulgaria. And she's going to be speaking on the built environment, green and digital skills. So Maria, the floor is yours for the next 7 minutes.
Thank you very much. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here with you today. And indeed, I believe that we can agree with all the speakers. Let me just share my presentation now. So I will start with the key importance of the skills development in the world where we are living, and the success lays down in the strategic importance of the strategic partnerships. I believe that from the speakers that have already made their presentations, you clearly hear one word, and it is importance of working together. Transnational cooperation expand the ability to gain new perspectives, share ideas, and build long-lasting institutional relations in order to advance knowledge, increase the quality and relevance of the education, training, and research, strengthen the links between education, training, research, and innovation, and of course, improve the employability and skills. Next slide, please. Here you can easily see the significant targets, but also shortages that lays down within the Europe scope. The strategic agenda of the European Union foresees a commitment to investing in people's skills, training, and education through their lives and encouraging talent mobility within the European Union. As you can see, the plan is that up to 60% of the adult population of Europe will participate in a training activity annually. Indeed, this number is quite high, stepping on the fact that almost 12% of all the young people up to 30 years old are in need, neither in education nor in training. That's why we need to establish a good strategic approach and foster much on the public-private partnerships, because they can be the efficient way of connecting labor market demands to educations and trainings. Learners can benefit by learning directly from practice, working with the latest developments in each sector. Innovations will thus be easily accepted and directly implicated in the working conditions. And of course, this will support the key principles of effective and open governance of the VET systems. Thus, we will be able to develop innovative practices, helping to increase significantly the percentages of the Europeans with digital skills. As you can see, that 80% of the Europeans needs to have at least basic digital skills. Of course, stepping on the fact and boosting the transnational cooperation will require significant exchange and mobilities and sharing the best practices. Skills portability and the recognition of qualifications are important to ensure the effective freedom of movement for learners and also to tackle the world skills gaps. We in BuildSkills Academy, and I will present a little bit our partnership in a while, but we are focusing on the construction sector. Next slide, please. Which aims at working in one of the most important and key influential sectors in European, but also in world economy, with a significant impact in the GDPs of the countries and also with a significant shortage in the working force. The major problem of attracting young and qualified workers should be overcome by finding an effective way how to make the work more attractive, because the construction sector is a leading industrial employer in Europe, of course, in the European Union, but also worldwide. The shift in the construction sector towards more highly qualified activities right now demonstrates 10% decline. And it is up to us to find a way to make it more attractive, more sustainable, and to attract all those people that are searching for a prospective career. That is why, focusing on this, we created one of the centers of vocational excellence, and we were approved and funded by the European Commission. Next slide, please. I will right now move to presenting our very beloved project named BuildSkills Academy. We at Cleantech Bulgaria brought together 17 partners from 10 countries, including 7 European countries, 2 associated countries, and 1 non-associated, with the aim to find a way to excellence in terms of green and digital skills for the construction sector. BuildSkills is trying to bridge the certification gaps between the different member states through finding and creating a pan-European framework for certification and skills upgrading, focusing on the twin transition in the construction sector. We have already identified much on the skills, and we have identified a lot of green and digital skills that needs to be applied in order to support the transform of the construction sector. And I will use the occasion of this forum to briefly present our digital tool, which is easy to be accessed by all of you. Next slide, please. I hope that you can click on the link. If not, I will send it right in the chat, just to be sure that you can easily follow our digital tool, because it might be useful to all of you. The idea and our aim of having this is that we created a build and rich skills methodology, and it's a digital tool that can be useful to each and every vet center to test and try to upgrade and include new skills within the current curriculums and current trainings. So the platform is a self-assessment tool that has the opportunity to guide all the vet providers through a step-by-step process in order to enrich their courses or to develop new ones. Of course, we are assisting the vet providers in identifying the skill gaps and provide them with guidelines on how to enrich their existing courses. There are 5 steps. The first one is to decide on the course you wish to update. So you have a list, then to identify the relevant skills and methods. After that, step 3 is to complete the quality assurance checklist. Then at step 4, we have the opportunity to obtain the individualized assessment reports from the digital wizard, where you will find information on identified current shortcomings of the courses, highlights on other occupations that might be relevant for the existing set of skills and competencies, and what needs to be included in your course. And of course, step 5 is to receive a very detailed recommendations on how to update and improve your course following the suggestions of our report. Of course, we start with the building environment, and we use it as a case study, as it is super influential for the European economy. But our ambition, and it is good that we have the chance to further support other sectors. So we will find all those cross-cutting opportunities. Next slide, please. And in order to stay tuned, you can easily follow us on LinkedIn, on Facebook, to learn more on BuildSkills Academy website, and also, of course, to contact us in order to identify all the synergies, because we strongly believe that the future of the skills is related to partnership approach and finding a way how to work together, as we need to be more flexible and more effective. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Maria. Thanks very much. And I think the work of the BuildSkills Academy is really fantastic. And I suppose more generally, upskilling and reskilling, side skilling is going to be crucial for achieving the SDGs in the future, but also for a future economy that's reoriented in directions which are greener and more environmentally cognizant. So thank you, Maria, for those really interesting insights. We're going to move on to the next speaker. The next speaker is Shannon Coburn. Shannon is the head of education and training at the SDG Academy at UN SDSN. And Shannon's going to be talking to us about master's courses for inclusive and sustainable knowledge. So Shannon, over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Enda, and thank you to my fellow panelists and everyone watching tonight. It's night time for me. I am Shannon. I'm the head of education and training at the SDG Academy, and I'm based out of our Kuala Lumpur office, so it is night for me. So I want to talk a little bit about, we've been hearing about all of the different ways that we can upskill and bring knowledge and capacity to various players in the private sector, public sector, civil society. We just heard about BuildSkills and the importance there of certification for the construction sector in Europe in the built environment. Sometimes that's going to look like different types of certifications, and in our case here with the online master's programs that we support at the SDG Academy, that's going to look like degree programs for knowledge sharing, upskilling, and developing a professional and educated workforce across private and public sector. You have been hearing a ton about the SDG Academy, but I'll take this opportunity very briefly to introduce us if you're not entirely sure who we are. We are the flagship education initiative of SDSN, the Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and we promote transformative education by creating, curating, distributing, and partnering on quality content to spread knowledge and awareness of the SDGs. So we are very happy to be working with everyone on this call to do just that in a variety of ways. One of our programs is that we currently partner with 2 universities to provide online master's programs. So we first launched this partnership program with these 2 partner universities in July 2020. So we have one partner program with Sunway University here in Malaysia, where I am, the Masters in Sustainable Development Management. And then we also work with University College Dublin on their MSc in Sustainable Development. So why bother with an online master's at all? Well, it's because an initiative like this really supports not just SDG 4 in education, but a number of different SDG targets related to knowledge sharing, upskilling, education. So, I mean, 4.3, 4.4, 4.7, my personal favorite, but also target 8.6, which is about reducing the number of people, number of youth not in employment, education, or training, which we just heard about from Maria. So just as an example of different ways that supporting higher education and degrees really contributes not just to maybe the obvious education related SDGs, but everything else as well, which I'm sure many of us recognize. And by doing this with very flexible programs that are designed for working people, people who are looking to improve or change their careers, people who are looking to bring sustainability into the career they already have, these programs need to be online, they need to be flexible, to support the working population. And they also need to make use of, as we heard, global knowledge goods like open education resources, which we've heard about with the OER Dubai Declaration, and of course the Global Digital Compact. So really the work of these online programs, we hope is supporting a number of different initiatives that we believe in. But why do we have to do this through a partnership? Well, one simple reason is the SDG Academy, for all of our many strengths, we are not an institution that grants degrees. So we want to help spread these opportunities and this knowledge. We have to do it in partnership with these renowned universities who have the tools and the experience and the accreditation to help deliver these programs. So we get to work with them to embed sustainability into their online programming, or maybe help them develop online programming that they don't already have, and reach out to an audience that they might not have been reaching out to before. We also get to help them use the materials that we've created for all of the online learning that we support at the SDG Academy, our MOOCs, our videos, and leverage the power of the Sustainable Development Solutions Network and all of the opportunities that we have through that network to learn about and engage with different sustainability challenges and opportunities. So a little bit about the particular programs that we have running right now. So this is the Masters of Sustainable Development Management at Sunway University in Malaysia. So based on their expertise and opportunities at the university, so this master's program has more of a management and business focus, but is still about sustainable development management. And it is growing, and it's really attracting people from, actually all the programs that we have running right now are attracting mid-career professionals who are coming back to school and looking to upskill or possibly looking even to transition their careers. So these are by and large not people who are fresh out of their undergrad experience, fresh out of their bachelor's degree, which again is one of the reasons that we like having these online, very flexible programs. And the one at Sunway is conducted on the weekends as well. So that makes it even more flexible and attractive for working professionals. Similarly, at the program at UCD, which ENDA is definitely a supporting part of, really makes excellent use of the SDG Academy materials. About a third of all the materials used by lecturers in the program have to come from the SDG Academy, making sure that we're making good use of those resources. And they've really done an excellent job at recruiting and bringing people into this program. And one of the ways that we've been able to do that, again, with our partners at University College Dublin is we've developed this master's pathway. So it's one thing to get people into these online master's programs and give them these flexible online opportunities to get new credentials, new degrees. But maybe not everyone has the right academic background, or maybe they studied something completely unrelated in their bachelor's program, or maybe they're not ready to commit to a full degree program yet. So that's why we developed this, what we call our master's pathway. So using materials that we have created at the SDG Academy, our courses on edX, we've created these paths that you can take these programs on edX and then apply up to, it's not directly into the master's, it's a diploma program at UCD, but it's accredited. They will grant you credit for what you've done on edX. And then you finish up that diploma program at UCD, and then you are able to roll that in to the master's degree if that's the direction that you want to go. So it's this idea of being flexible, being stackable, and really opening up those pathways to higher education to people who might not be able to, drop everything that they're doing and go take a master's program somewhere. So that's being flexible, being open, being online, and doing it in partnership with universities that know how to do this very well. An exciting update for us is that we are looking to expand these partnerships and this network of online programs to different universities that have different focus areas and can help us reach different audiences. So we're looking and very happy to be launching a new partnership with the University of Dar es Salaam in Tanzania, which will have a little bit more of a focus on issues that are most relevant to the African continent. So we'll be having more of a focus on sustainable use of natural resources, natural resource governance, agriculture, and poverty reduction were some of the items that came up. And so we're very excited to be launching that program in November with the new school year in Tanzania. So we'll be talking more about that soon. The overall goal here is to create an ecosystem of learning so that it's not each individual partnership working in a silo with us and the partner, but to ultimately be able to connect our whole network of these online master's programs so that we can do virtual student exchange programs, or a student who's enrolled in one program is interested in a module, a course that's offered through one of the other programs. You're online, as long as you can make the time zones work. The credit sharing is something that we're looking forward to developing with our network of partners. And then you can do collaborative project-based learning. You could have hackathons and competitions. And then again, through the connection to us at the SDG Academy, we can help you organize guest lecturing and resource sharing, and helping to do internship placements or project-based learning placements. And that's also a way that we can partner effectively with the private sector and with multilateral institutions, is thinking about opportunities for scholarships and other types of support there, thinking about projects and internships. So this becomes this entire ecosystem of support for upskilling a new generation, or sometimes even the current generation of people working in sustainable industry and sustainable jobs. One quick example. Yep, almost done. One quick example of something fun we were able to do through this network, and thanks to our connections within the SDSN world, is that during 2020, we were able to have a joint online course with Jeffrey Sachs teaching about different elements of the COVID pandemic in real time, looking at the virology, looking at the public health implications, looking at the economic implications. He was teaching students at Columbia's School of International and Political Affairs, SIPA. But because it was online, because we had that network, we were able to open up that online course to students at these master's programs at Sunway and UCD. So this I'm just sharing as one example of the type of collaborative teaching that we have been able to do in the past and are looking forward to doing in the future. So if you would like to learn more about this particular program, you can scan the QR code, or I think my colleague will be dropping a link in the chat. And we definitely hope to expand this network and do more of this in the future. I'll stop there.
Thanks, Shannon. And I think the role of education for the future of sustainability is really crucial, and particularly formal accredited education in conjunction with other agencies and partners and so on, to create a flexible pathway, as you say, towards upskilling and professional development in the SDGs is really crucial. So thanks, Shannon, for that. Just before our final speaker, I just want to mention to all of you in the audience that Isabella will be sending out a Google form via the chat. So really the idea here is, if anyone is interested in any of the issues or projects that were raised today from any of our speakers, you can sign up on this form to engage with these projects more specifically. So Elena will send around the form. You can complete it and tell her what project you're interested in if you want to get involved. Okay. So our final speaker today is Dr. Adeniki Akinsemulu. She is the founder and director of the Green Institute, and Adeniki is going to be talking on transforming attitudes about environmentalism. So Adeniki, the floor is yours for the next 7 minutes.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. So I'm going to be talking about the Green Institute. Over a decade ago, I was teaching a class of over 250 students in Nigeria in a community college, and the question was, what does it mean to go green? And a lot of them at that time they said they've not really even heard about it. So it started as an initiative on campus, but some of the problem that we faced was that most people in these rural communities, they're still dealing with basic needs. That's food, water, access to security, and other things. And going green can sometimes fall maybe in esteem need or self-actualization. So we thought about it, how do we incentivize the idea of going green, or the idea of sustainability? So we came up with different ideas. For instance, in Nigeria, there's a lot of, there's still some bit of issue in terms of waste management. So we came up with an idea of trash for education, where students get to exchange their trash for something useful. It can be educational materials. It can be they can use it to take a course based on the points that they've accumulated. So just doing that, we started plugging in a lot of, started changing their attitudes about environmentalism, and to show them that, oh, if you ride bicycle, as simple as that is, you're reducing emission, you're keeping fit, and you're also saving cost. We also introduced them to the idea of growing organic food. So students are given like piece of land on campus, and so they can grow food. And then later, the initiative transitioned into what we have now as the Green Institute. And the mission of the Green Institute is to build the next generation of sustainability leaders through education, through advocacy, and through innovation. We're a member of the SDSN, and we're also an accredited organization of UNITAR. We have 5 thematic focus, which is education, environment, equity, energy, and economies. But we've done most of our work in terms of education and environment and equity. Our impact so far, we've had more than 30,000 leaders trained. We've organized a lot of educational events, and which I'm going to talk through. In terms of education, we do come up with comic books, especially those that kids in Africa can relate to. So we have this that we just did. It's called Taditola the Astronaut, which shows an African boy. So it's a kind of a vibrant children's book that follows the journey of a boy into like space adventure, but then it touches on different things like environmental stewardship, like courage, like friendship. The reason why we're doing that is we notice that a lot of books that are shipped to Nigeria or that are used in schools usually say things like S for snow, and there's no snow in Nigeria, so it's hard for students to connect with what they cannot see in their environment. So we started, how do we plug in the idea of going green or sustainability to things that they can see in their environment so that they can connect more. So one of it is, starting with the character. We also did get funding from the National Geographic to come up with a local green education curriculum, which is what you have here. This was during COVID period, and we try to spread that across different schools in Nigeria. And during the Christmas last December, we did have people donate books to kids that do not have access, that would not be able to afford these books. So you donate a book on sustainability and environmentalism to kids, and then we'll get that across to different schools. Right now we're developing a MOOC on the principles of green and sustainability science, which is based off a book that was authored by me, and it kind of touched on sustainability as it relates to different kind of fields, renewable energy, ethics, any kind of fields that you can think about, businesses, even religious organizations. And it also has a chapter dedicated to the SDGs. So currently we're developing this course. So these are some of the guest lecturers we have. This is Susan Gardner. She's a deputy director of she's a director of ecosystem at UNEP. And so because of our times, but these are just some of the topics that we're hoping to cover in the MOOC. Most of those videos have been recorded, but we're in the course of seeing where we can house the MOOC and to have a wider reach. We do have a course that is already online. It's called Early Childhood Care Management and for Sustainability. And this course is actually more directed towards anyone can take it. But we also saw that if you want to teach sustainability, you have to start from from early childhood. And most institutions, especially primary schools in Nigeria and some West African countries, it's still hard. They're still not incorporating sustainability. So we want to be able to train the teachers to take these courses. So we launched this course last year. In terms of events, education, we do host a lot of events around sustainability, around different topics like water, food, environment. And we want to make sure that this event is accessible to everyone. So most of our events sometimes are virtual and some of them hybrid. So even if you cannot travel, you can still attend the events. So we have partnership with the University of Bradford and University of Birmingham, where we host the World Water Day panel. We do the World Environment Day. The first World Environment Day that we organized was during the COVID-19 pandemic, and everyone was just really bored, and we thought about, since nobody is traveling, can we just organize a World Environment Day symposium? And then we sent a message to Professor Jeffrey Sachs at that time, and he accepted to be the keynote speaker. So we're really excited. And then from that, after we hosted the first one, then we kept hosting it every year. And this is during World Environment Day, where we bring people together to talk about different aspects of sustainability. We do have events on food, but because of our time, I won't go over that. So we have an event for everything. But the purpose of all this event is to educate people on sustainability issues as it affects different fields like energy, like STEM, and so on and so forth. Even law. So we have all those events, and we usually host a very large event every year. It's called the World Sustainability Conference. We host it again in partnership with the University of Birmingham. This year it's going to be in November. Usually around November before the COP event. So we're also going to still be hosting this in November. In terms of our advocacy, so the Green Institute focuses on education, advocacy, and research. In terms of advocacy, we have a campaign called the Officially Green Movement. And the purpose of this movement is to inspire individuals, communities, and organizations to take actionable steps towards sustainability through simple, everyday commitment. And we believe that sustainability should be practical, should be personal, and should be participatory. A lot of people want to help, but they don't have the funding, they don't have a lot of things. So what we came up with is how can you help even if you don't have funding, even if you don't have money, is by transforming everyday habits. So simple things like, I will never drop that waste on the floor. I will eat and drink moderately. I will always switch off my appliances when not in use. I will use less paper. I will travel sustainably. I will tell others about the green, and above all, I pledge to be green. The reason why we're doing is that it doesn't really cost anyone just to say, oh, I will never drop my waste on the floor. And you don't have to take all the pledges. You can just pick and choose which one you would like to commit to. So these are some of the things that we've developed at the Institute. And the campaign started out as an online campaign, but surprisingly, it went viral, and we started seeing people from different parts of the world, religious organizations, everyday people, taking the Green Pledge. And these are just examples of different people from different countries engaging in the Green Pledge. And so we hope that this would, we're looking into partnership to ensure that this becomes a global movement. So you're just showing pictures of different people engaging with the Officially Green Movement. In terms of research, we do education in places that are displaced by the impacts of climate change, especially coastal communities, and also to look at the intersection of how does climate change affect women and girls. So we do try to educate them so that they can be co-researchers as opposed to victims. So a lot of researchers, when they go to these communities, they take their samples or their data and they leave the community. But we do engage the people of the community to be co-researchers because they have the knowledge. So these are just pictures from some of the work that have been done from this community has been exhibited at the Berlin-Brandenburg Academy of Sciences this year. It's called the Metamorphosen. So those are some of the things that we do. Again, we publish lots of research from our field work, and we do encourage people to take the Green Pledge. Because of our time, usually I always tell people to take the Green Pledge with me anytime I'm giving a talk, but because of our time, I won't be able to do that. But please, if you would like to take the Green Pledge, we'll put the link in the chat box. Please feel free to take the Green Pledge. And once you take the pledge, you get a certificate of greenness. And we hope that you continue, you stay true to some of the pledges that you've taken. Thank you very much. We're looking into collaborations in terms of developing our MOOC, in terms of reaching more people with our pledges, and just making impacts from local impact that can become a global movement. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Adenike. It was really, really insightful and just an amazing example of bottom-up empowerment from an organization in relation to green initiatives that promote sustainability. It's fascinating, the range of work that's going on at the Green Institute, really. So I'd like to thank all the speakers as well for your talks. And we have probably about 10 minutes or so where we can open the floor to a few questions. So if anyone has any specific question that they would like to ask, please feel free to raise your hand virtually and you can ask a specific question of one of our speakers.
Yeah, hi, thank you very much for this wonderful setting. I was wondering, since we are talking about the SDGs and this partnership, what happened in the last high-level meeting in the United Nations, where we have this report talking about only 17% of the SDG goals. And that was alarming from even the General Secretary, I believe, that we are not in a good track and a position. So regarding these like progress reports or data, are we doing something based on all of positions that the speakers, they're doing a wonderful job, actually, a wonderful plans and tasks. But do you think this data, critical data, will let us think of something more partnership? Did you change anything? Did you discuss this issue and this data to change some of our goals, strategic activities, wherever can be done just to catch before the 2030? And thank you.
Thank you, Samir. Yeah, so at the Summit of the Future, of course, we know that it was very clear and open to all member states, I think, there that progress on the SDGs was very, very far away from where it needs to be, and that we've only achieved a small fraction of what we need to in relation to the 2030 agenda. But I'd like to open that question up to the floor if anybody wants to take it from our speakers, those questions, the role of partnerships, I suppose, really in accelerating achievement towards the SDGs might be one of the key issues of concern here. Anyone want to comment on that? Elena.
Maybe, yeah, thank you, because I was just answering a similar question in the chat. But just to say, I think, for example, the capabilities for the future hub idea that we were presenting, it's exactly about that. And I think there was a comment from Wisdom saying there are a lot of fragmented efforts. And I think one of the reasons why we are not making progress because the efforts are fragmented. I think if we can pull together our expertise, sometimes partners, organizations are scared because they think they will remain without a job. But in fact, maybe there are in some areas they will simply change what they are doing because it complements better other efforts. In other areas, they will be doing things together, synergistically. So I think it's really about this breaking silos mentality and the need for us to invest more time in collaborations. I think another reason is often we think collaboration is time consuming, so we don't want to do it because sometimes it really takes time to build understanding. But I think initially, yes, it's an investment. But once you have common language, shared purpose, you can achieve much more. So in the mid and long term, the impact may be much greater.
Thanks, Elena. Does anyone else want to come in on that? Or? Yeah, Maria.
Yeah, just a very brief insight in this. This is what we're trying to do, and this is all the forums that we're participating in about, because we want to find a way to have this mutual understanding and recognition on the importance. Because, you know, the most important thing is to gather all the data, all the tools and methodologies in order to be sure that we're providing all this knowledge worldwide. So this is the answer is always micro credentials. These are the small certificates that can be easily accessed. And this is what all the partners are doing, trying to identify the missing skills, to find the general logic on how to gain the skills and knowledge required, and to further support each other in the mutual recognition. So again, partnership is the key.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Maria. Anthony, we have a question here on the someone asking Michelle, can we have more details about the March 25th event on insurance and the SDGs? Is there a registration link? I'm not sure if that's.
Yeah, I can pop one. I'll
pop
just
it into the chat.
then, yeah, I'll pop one into the chat. So that event is for insurance practitioners.
Okay.
But I can also put a link to the festival website, which has loads of events, some of which will be open to the public as well.
Yeah.
I would just reinforce what Maria and Elena have said. I think we have the same issue, just going back to the previous question, we have the same issue in the insurance space and in the financial services more generally. There's lots of working groups, there's lots of sustainability champions, there are individual companies that have individual initiatives, but it's very, very fragmented. And unfortunately, one of the main drivers still in our world is regulation. So one thing we're doing is actually looking to first of all, harmonize the various different working groups into a clear, coherent message across the industry, and to really pick out a few areas where we can make tangible impact, as opposed to trying to boil the ocean and all talking about the challenges all the time. Where are the areas that we can make an impact? Who are the stakeholders you need in the room? Let's all align on that. So that's something that I know is going on here in the London market this year. There will be some more, hopefully, coherent efforts on that. And we're going to be lobbying with the UK regulators on how we can get past some of the structural barriers to innovation in the insurance industry. And I think another issue which is very hard to answer, and I don't have the answer for, is the short-term thinking. And I'm sure it's the same in most sectors, but in the insurance world, people operate on an annual renewal cycle in most classes of business. And even though it makes huge logical sense to lean into SDGs for long-term resilience and long-term profitability, it's really hard to break people out of that cycle. I don't have the answer of how we do it, but that's something we're going to try and work on. And finally, measuring impact is really important. In the insurance space, a tool has been developed called the SDG calculator, which is designed for insurance companies to actually measure across their portfolios what their impact on SDGs is. Unfortunately, due to some corporate nonsense that I don't really understand, it's kind of drifted off into the universe and doesn't have a home at the moment, which is really frustrating, because that could make a huge difference to mobilizing efforts and strategy towards the SDGs. But it will find a home at some point. So there is work being done on it. But yeah, it's tough, but fragmentation is a problem. And yeah, we have to all align our efforts and be coherent and cohesive.
Yeah, thanks, Anthony. And I suppose that's why we're here in partnership, and that's what SDG 17 is about. It's about recognizing that fragmentation exists and trying to deal with it through partnership as a means of implementation. And that's really, really key, I think. We might have time for one really quick last question, if that's okay, if we can keep people for 1 or 2 more minutes. So Afano, if you have one question, you can unmute yourself and have a quick question.
Hello, good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're from. This has been very interesting for me, and I want to commend the speakers first. And then also, I asked the question in the chat, I haven't seen it answered. If we can get like the contacts of all the presenters. And then also, I wanted to add, in addition to collaboration, I think to be able to drive the impact of the SDGs and accelerate the SDGs, it's essential to kind of like localize the impact, focus on one community at a time, so that you're able to get your baseline and end of project, and you're able to actually determine how impactful you've been in one community, and you've been able to come out of that community knowing that the impact has actually been felt, as against doing work in like several communities. But if you're able to also collaborate, then you can do in multiple communities at the same time and also be able to get the type of impact that you want to achieve. That's just what I wanted to add to it. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. Isabella might be better able to answer about the contact information and presentations. I'm not sure on that one. She might put it in the chat. But Adeniki, maybe you might be able to answer the second question, which is about impact and that sort of bottom up, how to organize at a bottom up level and scale, essentially, for impact.
Yeah, thank you very much. So for like from the example from the Green Institute, we've always believed like the local first before global. I think most of what we've been able to do well is to let people see the examples of what we're doing, and that is actually working, and also to be consistent, because most of the time when we're going to these communities, they're usually very reluctant to change or to what we're trying to, for lack of better words, sell to them. So it's always good to, so what we do is when we get into a community, we try to see who is in charge of the community. Is it a king? Is it a youth leader or someone? And then we try to first convince those people to see how this would benefit them. So you have to present, if you're just talking about going green and sustainability, they don't want to hear it. But how is this, is there an incentive for them? An incentive doesn't necessarily have to be like monetary. It could just be like, it can help improve their livelihood or their quality of life or something. Once you're able to get those people on your side, then it's easy. It's always easier to get every other person in the community to be involved. And you want to keep your message local. Like I've mentioned the idea of like snow and penguins, because some books speak for penguins and S for snow and things like that. And imagine going to a school and you're teaching SDGs from a global SDG perspective. It won't necessarily work. So if you want to talk about like sustainability, for instance, we use examples like people already, like when we go to some local community, we tell them that you're already going green, because some communities, when they use stuff, they give it like if within a family, if the elder brother uses like some books, he gives it to the younger one to continue using, and then they pass it on, which is still an example of reuse. So we try to connect an example that they are already living, and by doing that, you already kind of catch their attention. So you don't want to use foreign ideas and things like that, and you just want to keep your message local. And hopefully, when you keep doing that, then other people will pay attention, and some people would even want to learn from your, like, what's the best practice in Africa, or what's the best practice in another community, and then they will bring you to talk about your best practices. I don't know if that has answered the question.
Okay, great, Nikki, and that's really, really good advice, I think, and about how to scale and how to localize achievements on the SDGs. So I am conscious of the time, and I'm conscious of the fact that we've ran 5 minutes over, and so I think we will finish up here. But before I do that, I'd like to thank very much again all the speakers today for really insightful presentations, and thank you for giving your time, I suppose, to the audience. And there was about 100 people on the call today, so that's a really good turnout for the session. And just on behalf of myself, I'd like to thank Isabella for a lot of work behind the scenes, and the SDSN team at the SDG Academy in particular for co-organising this event with us here at UCD in Dublin. So we leave it there and say bye-bye, and thank you all for attending.